Many people have the misconception that poetry has nothing to do with communication skills. When you read poetry, you don't read like prose. It is going to teach you a lot about the beauty of words, beauty of sentences. Assalamu alaikum, this is Asif and you're watching Literature World. In this video, I shall be talking about poetry, what it has to do with communication skills, because many people have the misconception that poetry has nothing to do with communication skills, speaking skills, language skills, because they think that you just got to get into the language classes and then practice language and this is how you get it. Yes, for sure, you will get it, but that will be an ordinary language. If you want to attain the profoundness of language, the depth of language, and the beauty of language, you got to do with poetry, and poetry has a lot to do with it. Furthermore, in this video only, I shall be unboxing this book I lately received. I was very excited about it. This is newly published book of translation of Kashmiri poet Mahmud Gami. I shall be talking about that at the end of the video. But for now, let's talk about poetry and communication skills. Remember, poetry is the oldest form of literature and it's the deepest form of literature. Since it is the deepest form of literature, it deals with the deep thinking and analysis of an aspect of life in the deepest possible manner. So it is going to teach you a lot about deep thinking, analytical thinking, and maybe critical thinking as well. So if you read poetry, it is going to make you a deep thinker, because when you go through poetry, you don't understand things quickly. You need to think a lot. So it's going to make you a better thinker, and if you are a better thinker, at imagination, you are going to be a better speaker. Number two, poetry deals with beautiful language. That is very interesting to read. It's got rhythm, it's got good combination of words. So if you read poetry, if you're into poetry, it is going to teach you a lot about the beauty of words, beauty of sentences, beauty of language. So poetry is going to make you a beautiful, a deep speaker. Number three, poetry has a lot to do with rhythm. When you read poetry, you don't read like prose, you don't read like any ordinary thing. You read it in a proper rhythm. And if you attain rhythm through the recitation of poetry, it's going to help you in becoming a good public speaker, because you would know a lot about the rhythm, the up and down of voice, what we call inflection or intonation. You are going to learn about rhyming, you're going to learn about the voice modulation, you're going to learn about the pace and volume, because all these things are involved in the recitation of poetry. So if you are a reciter of poetry, it is going to make you a better speaker. So for example, I will read this poem, The Road Not Taken. You cannot read it like prose. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry, I could not travel both. You got to read it in a rhythmic manner, like two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry, I could not travel both. And be one traveler long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. So you must have observed that there was the modulation of voice, there was the change in the rhythm, the change in volume, the change in the pace as well. So if you attain this through recitation of poetry, you are going to become a better speaker. And there are a lot of tools which a poet uses to create an effect, to create a rhythm. Like for example, we have rhyme. If you use rhyme in speaking, occasionally, not often, it's going to, because when you hear something that rhymes, it seems truer than the sentence which doesn't rhyme, the words which don't rhyme. And there are the devices like alliteration, like the repetition of consonant sounds. Like I would say, I'm not here to disturb you, but to dispel the doubts about something. So you could hear the word d, da, da, da. So that creates a good effect. And when your audience listen to this kind of speaking, they really fall in love with the way you speak. So how you do it? Go for poetry. So let's unbox now this book of a Kashmiri poet, and let's see what is in it. And I'm going to read some lines as well. So this is Mahmud Gami's Yusuf's Fragrance, published by Penguin, newly published by Penguin, and it's been translated by Mufti Mudassir Faruqi, a great work he has done. So let me read a few poems and you will get an idea whether you should buy it or not. But as far as I've seen it, I found it very, very interesting so far. So this is a poem that he has written on his son's death, whose name was Shah Sultan. He died young, you should know. He writes, "May I be your sacrifice, Shah Sultan, my dearest one. May I lay down my life for you. Show me a single glimpse of yours. Why have you spilled my blood and dyed your feet and hands with it? Could my blood fetch me your talking again? Oh, my sweet-lipped darling. I don't know how I will die, perhaps pining sorely for you. How much more will Mehmud bear this pain, this agony? Oh, dear one, may I be your sacrifice." This is a beautiful elegy, very deep, as I was talking about the depth of poetry, very deep and very melancholic. Another poem that I was just reading, it is on death. Let me find it. Yes, where did it go? This book seems very, very interesting. I think it's going to be a good read. Very mystic and very, very spiritual. There are poems about Laila Majnun, Yusuf, Zulekha, the Song of Separation. These are the titles he has written on. Khusraw Shirin, and many more. I will just read any poem. Let me check. He has done a wonderful work of translation. I appreciate the translator. Okay, here I found the poem that I would like to share with you. The title of the poem is "My Dear Self, Remember Death." It seems that Mahmud Gami has been very much obsessed with death, and there are a lot of themes on death in this book. As I was flipping through the pages of this book, it says, "My dear self, O ignorant one, know that the world is a vale of tears. Adam, who was our first ancestor, was also the first to taste death. His clayey body mingled with dust. The prophet Nuh, too, bewailed when his soul and body were rent apart. His 1,000 years seemed a moment. Ibrahim, known as the friend of God, the only man death might have spared, but it came and took him away. King Yusuf, the glorious one, he too surrendered his dear life. How many were devastated by his death? Dawood, a prophet, with heavenly voice, see, he too perished in the end. Death brought him down like all others. Sulaiman, the owner of the flying throne, ruled at one time. Where is he now? Laid desolate by the chilling death. Yahya, who used to say, "What can death do to me?" died one day, uttering a cry. Musa, a prophet who conversed with God, entered his grave with a robust body, though he was gifted with a sweet tongue. Plato, the Greek, and Luqman, the sage, who can match their wisdom? When death approached, they lost their wits. Alexander, the world conqueror, tried to find death's cure, but death, he learned, has no cure. Idris and Isa are stationed on the sky. Khizr and Ilyas are here on the earth, the latter to try to evade death. Last messenger of God, Muhammad, it was no wonder if he were immortal, he too submitted to the call of death. So it seems that this is an interesting collection of poetry, very easy translation. I recommend this book to all of you. If you want to buy the book, the link is already in the description. And if you want to read poetry with us in a language class where we can learn how poetry can help us becoming a better communicator, so join us in the course. The details are given in the description. Thank you so much for watching. May God be with you always.